Hi everyone, how's it going? My name is Parth Sukhadia. I'm an account executive in direct sales team right here in the SF office of Odoo for North America. And today we'll be talking about how to manage your stock with using a barcode scanner. Now, if I can get a feel for the room, how many of you are familiar with Odoo's inventory module in general? Fairly people, about like 50%? Okay, all right. So I'll try to be a little bit more detailed on how Odoo is structured for inventory modules as well for people who are not familiar. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is more of like an agenda for today. We're going to talk about a little bit of the introduction of how barcode works in Odoo. Odoo is, by the way, fully compatible with barcodes. And then we will run through some scenarios of different way you move your stock within Odoo potentially, right? And then we'll take care of some questions a little bit later on. So let's get started. So how does barcode work in Odoo? So that's the Barcode App in Odoo. It's free. You can go to Odoo's App Store, and then actually you need to go to configurations and settings. I'll show you in a moment, and then enable those barcode feature, and the app will automatically get applied to in your dashboard. And then you can assign barcodes to a lot of things in Odoo, such as products, orders, warehouse locations, and any inventory commands and operations, which we'll go through in just a second. And this is new in version 13. Now you can actually print barcode labels in a Zebra printer, as well as in PNG format, not just PDF. So let me show you how to print those barcodes out. Now, by the way, Odoo works with pretty much as any barcode scanner that is compatible with your computer. Easiest way to know whether your barcode scanner is compatible or not is you can open up like a notepad and then scan a barcode using your barcode scanner, right? If it prints out some kind of number or some kind of digits, that means the barcode scanner works, and it's fine. Since Odoo is web-based, it doesn't necessarily require any specific barcode scanner that you have to use in order to get this thing started. And in version 13, now we have enabled your mobile phones and any mobile app's camera that you can use as well to scan any particular barcode and recognize products in any order forms or any business documents. So let me jump into one of the database of Odoo and show it to you. So this is what a typical Odoo database looks like, right? As soon as you log in, you have some apps that you have your subscription for. And depending on how much user access you have, you can either see these apps or you have certain access to information within those apps. And if you want to check out all the barcode stuff, this is the Barcode App right there, which I'll touch on just a second. And most of the configuration in barcode or your stock would live in your inventory module. So we can click on it. And right off the bat, again, depending on my user access, this is basically my to-do list. So I can see how much items or shipments I need to receive, some internet transfers, any deliveries that are going out, or any manufacturing stuff if you have manufacturing enabled. And now let's talk about some of the stuff that we saw on right here about the products and orders and warehouse locations. So if I go to configuration, first of all, and then go to settings, I have to enable barcode by default. So we like to keep Odoo light and simple right off the box for people who doesn't need a lot of complexity. And this is where configuration and settings is where you can enable any features that you need for your business in general. So you can see that I have already enabled barcode scanner right there. And then at the bottom, as soon as I enable and save it, I will be able to see this commands and product barcodes. So I can go to print barcode commands, and then it will automatically pop out this this page, which I can print out. I can laminate, keep it in my warehouse for any of this operation that I want to do later on. Also, I can assign barcodes to products, right? So this particular database is more like a candy distribution company. So I have some candies right there, some SKUs, and then I have also associated some barcodes to those stuff. And if I want to take a printout of this, I can select any of them that I want, go to print, and then product barcode right there. And it will pop out a PDF with all of the information that I know. Now, this information that you see is customizable using Odoo's Studio feature. So this is more of like a basic scenario, but I can always enable Studio and then display any of the information that's in my product table into my barcode label, whichever one I want. So we did products, we did barcode commands. Now let's talk about locations and operations. So if I go into my configuration again, I can see there are location feature that is enabled right now. By default, it's not enabled, so you have to go to settings and then enable it. But if I go in there, I have already set up some locations in my warehouse. So right here is my warehouse, and in there I have a stock room. Within that stock room, I have some candy shelf, and then I also have a packaging area. And if I want to print out barcode label for this guys, I can assign this. First of all, I can choose this and then enable barcode right there, right? So if I click edit, and then right here is where I would assign any particular barcodes that I want. And then once I do that, going back to location, I need to select all of this, print out, and then click on location barcode. So Odoo will automatically print out a PDF that has barcode for all my locations now. Next up is our operation types. So operation types are right here. So I can click on it. And this is where all my operation lives, right? Any standard stuff that comes out of the box, such as receipts, internal transfer, delivery. You can even create your own operation types and assign barcodes to them for your organization. Again, I would select all of them, or depending on what I want, any of particular one. And I will choose the print barcode option. And now I have those barcodes as well. So basically, this is how you get all your basic stuff. This is more of like a housekeeping stuff that most people do when they get started with Odoo, to have this on their side whenever they need it for future, right? Now, not only this, I also said that you can assign barcodes to a particular order, right? So let's say we have some purchase orders from our vendor that we need to process. And this actually brings back to our first scenario of, where are you? Right there, accepting a shipment. So I'm gonna run a scenario for accepting a shipment, but same principle applies to processing a delivery, or any internal transfers which we'll go through, or any other operations that you guys have. So let's actually run through one of them. I'm gonna switch back to my database, go to my inventory, and then I can see that I have some receipts to process, which is right there. So I can select one of them. And then let's choose this guy. So if I click on this particular inventory right there, right? I have some candies that I need to receive, which is coming from a certain vendor. And then I have some source documents, such as my PO order, which will live in my purchase app. So I can have this printed as my picking operation, and then have it on my warehouse for any particular warehouse employee to process later on, and it will look like something like this. So I have a barcode for my picking operation, which is right there, and then any product barcodes that I have assigned, which is right here. Now, I have printed the same copy in here, so I'm gonna show you how this works in real time using a particular barcode, and then processing some products. So let's run through it. In order to use barcode for any particular operations, right, we need to go to Barcode App, and then now we can scan any barcode that we have printed using within Odoo itself, or any products itself too. So I'm going to toggle actually a mobile view, so that I can show you how mobile feature also works. So let's actually toggle mobile. So let's say this is our mobile tablet, or mobile iPhone or Android phone. Let's go to barcode, and then I'm gonna scan my picking operations, which is right there. There you go. and automatically it has popped out what I need to scan as part of the product, right? So now, there are multiple ways I can scan my products out. First, I mean, if you have the box of Twix and Reese's in here, I can just start scanning it, and then it will recognize, oh, excuse me, yeah, Twix, right there. And now, let's say Reese's, right? So again, I can scan the Reese's item, and it will show me right there. And I think I was playing with this earlier, so that's why this is showing me. Discard. Okay, good. Yeah. And I can also use my product barcode, which is right there, and then scan my Reese's barcode, and it will also register. As well as I can just use the barcode that is in my order form, right, which is Reese's, and it will register. Now, for some reason, you have a lot of items. Right now, we have about 8 items in here, right? And then you don't want to scan the barcode all the time. You already know that this is it. You counted it physically, and you have the item. You can easily go to the edit menu that is right there, and then I can say that quantity is 8, and confirm. So now we have that 8 quantity and some Twix barks in. And if I want to validate it, again, I can tap on my screen and just select validate right there. Or we also print out our shipping barcodes, right? Or operations barcode. So, which is right there. And then select the validate barcode. And Odoo will automatically validate the transfer out. So again, super easy and very flexible on how you want to manage the barcode depending on your particular preferences. And that's how the same principle would work for any delivery orders that are going out, and as well as any custom operations that you have for your own preference. And let me go back to my desktop view and talk about the next scenario, which is inventory adjustment. Now, again, this is where the mobile feature comes in very handy, because a lot of times you have a huge warehouse, right? And then you need to do an inventory adjustment, or we do yearly inventory call, and then count out everything that we have and then adjust them out, right? So what you can do is you can have a mobile barcode, such as the one over here, and then as long as you have Wi-Fi connection or an internet connection, you should be fine with it. You can run around your warehouse using your mobile application, right? And as soon as you go to a particular area where you need to scan the products, you can go to inventory adjustments, which is right there, and then start scanning the items. So let's say we are nearby KitKat section. So I'm going to start counting, and as soon as I start 1, it's telling me that according to system, I should have 8 of these KitKats in my warehouse, right? So I'm going to scan them, each of them, right, as I go. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to say, wait a minute, looks like we have 10 of these. So that's perfectly fine. We have 10, and then we did scan it. Now, I can simply just click on the validation button right there, or I can scan the validation barcode. And if I do, Odoo has automatically adjusted my inventory now in the backend system. So if I go back to the system in inventory and go to my products, actually let me switch to the desktop view and products. In my KitKat, I can see that it's 10 units in stock instead of 8 of them. So again, very simple, very easy to do any inventory adjustments, and it's very flexible on how we want to do it. Now, next up is our product movements. So we did inventory adjustment, and then now internal transfers. Now, internal transfers can be complicated depending on how much, how big of your organization is, or how many warehouses you guys have, right? You have multiple locations within one warehouse, or multiple warehouses within. So if it's a different location, as in different addresses, then you will basically do an internal transfer between 2 warehouses, right? But then location in Odoo means that it's just one warehouse, there are a couple of locations within that, such as stockroom or packaging area or shelf or something, and then you want to move items in between. So again, I'm going to go back to my mobile view, go to my barcode, and then in my operations, I can go to internal transfers. So again, I can use this as it, or I can also scan my barcode for in here that says internal transfers, right? Either way is fine. And let's actually go to one of them. And I'm going to select, one second, right there. I'm not sure why it's not popping up. One second. There we go. Okay, so first what I need to do is I need to scan the location that I'm moving the stuff from. So let's say we want to move some candies from our stockroom or our shelf to packaging area. So I'll select shelf, which is, if I should be able to scan it, hang on. Okay, well, let's choose stock. I think I selected stock by mistake, so we'll go with stock. And then we'll choose any particular candies that is part of our stock. So let's say this one. And then I'm also moving, let's say Kit Kat or Reese's. And now, once I'm done, I need to select the final location that this product is going to. So let's pick packaging. For some reason, my barcode didn't print it okay, but we can just choose the one that's in there. One second, put in pack, and let me try again. Oh. Well, I'm not sure why it's not working or scanning my barcode. I may need another barcode scanner. But once I do that, all I need to do is basically just click on validate or select validate, scan validate item, and I should be fine to move it out. So once that's been done, I can just select that, okay, well, this transfer has been good. And now if I go back to my inventory, and I go back to my locations. Excuse me. Product moves. I can see that any M&Ms that went in from well, initially since I couldn't select the packages, I just selected stock to stock, and I can see that 3 of my M&Ms went from, well, same location. We just moved it around and like flip it up and then put it back, I suppose. I don't know. So those items are already captured within my system. So that basically sums it up as far as the presentation of Barcode goes. I would love to have any questions. If there is no questions, I would like to show you some of the reporting stuff that you can generate based on those barcodes as well. So any questions? Yeah, sure.
For the items that are expirable, usually they have a lot number that comes up. How does the barcode integrate with selecting the lot numbers for that?
Of course. So you, when you print out a barcode for, let's say, a SKU, right? I'm sorry, a serial number or a lot number, you can actually print out specific barcodes for those particular serial numbers and lot numbers as well, and then try to move it to. It gets a little bit more complicated, and we only had 20 minutes, so I didn't have chance to show it, but that's definitely possible. Yeah.
We have a kind of complex situation in our business where we'll order a box of something from a vendor, and then we sell it as an individual unit.
Yeah.
So based on the purchase order, we're receiving 5 boxes, but in reality, we're receiving 25 products. How does that relate if you're trying to use the barcode scanner when receiving?
Great question. Again, a little bit more advanced, but what I would do ideally is that I will enable something called MultiStep routes in my inventory. So I can go to configuration, right, settings. It might be enabled already, but let me check. And all the way at the bottom, I can, yeah, it's already enabled. So this MultiStep routes, right, will make you, it will enable you to actually do multiple steps within one warehouse. So you can receive certain items as a box and then open it up, right, at a certain location and then put it individual box items in different items. So those are like two-step process, right? It can be 3-step, 4-step, depending on different locations, different use case. You can easily manage that using MultiStep with just one business document, such as an order form. Another thing you can do is you can use more of like a put-away rules. So that what it means is that as soon as an item comes in or a box comes in, you can assign where it needs to go or how much it needs to go within those items into put-away rules. And then Odoo will automatically show you in that order that this is where those stuff goes in. So definitely possible. Very good question.
Hi. I noticed with the Odoo barcode scanning app, when you're fulfilling like a pick ticket, it will still allow you to add products that aren't on the pick ticket.
That's right.
So so from a quality control standpoint, that was like problematic for us because we were trying to eliminate that. So we had to work around it. But what was the reasoning for that? And then if you add things to the order that's not on the pick ticket, when you go to validate the entire order, what does it do with those extra items?
By default, again, we like to keep Odoo a little more light and simple. So in most general items, let's say if you receive more than you were supposed to, right? And you decided, okay, well, I might as well just keep it. So you can, Odoo lets you do that by default. But you can manage those rights in user access rights in Odoo settings and prevent somebody from making any changes without, let's say, authorization or any changing at all. And those would be, we will use something like we call Studio. And that Studio feature allows you to make certain fields either mandatory, add any conditions to it, restrict any particular access rights, and so forth. And again, I would love to have a little bit more detailed conversation about it, but it may not be the purview of this particular call. Yeah, of course.
In one of the examples, you showed that they could consume more than what inventory showed you had on hand, like you scanned more. And you said it automatically did the inventory adjustment.
Yeah.
Does it automatically adjust general ledger too, like do a journal entry to increase?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have a question over there?
So it's actually two questions. We were trying the version 10. First, we had a problem because on the Zebra, the app wouldn't receive the when we scanned.
Did you mention you had version 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that's why. It wasn't compatible before. Now it is. So definitely.
With the Zebra scanner, okay.
In version 13, it should work.
Okay.
Yeah. Earlier, it used to be only PDF, and then you had to do like some kind of custom development in order to use a Zebra printer. And now it's no longer necessary. It's out of the box.
Oh, okay. So the next question is, we tried also, we have lot numbers. We have a lot of locations.
Sure.
We have, so it was a complex process. So even it became almost impossible to use with the app, the handheld. Even after we got over that problem, because to change and put it manually the quantities. Yeah. Are those problems different?
Yeah,
is
exactly.
the interface better now?
So again, that goes back to I think one of the slides. I may have mentioned it. I think, but basically in version 13, that's also something new that you can actually scan now from a mobile device, and then it's actually much more improved. So if you're having questions, I would probably contact support. Maybe there is a bug. I don't know, but it should work fine, hopefully.
Yeah, we have, for example, to give to make a picking to to go to a client, you had to pick the location where it's coming out from, the lot number,
How about we continue the conversation offline, because I think the time is over. But again, if you have any questions, I'll be outside. We can talk already. I'll be around. No, don't worry. Yeah. Well, by the way, thank you everybody for attending. If you have any questions, I'm around. Feel free to ask me any questions later on.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Yep. Excellent. Welcome to Odoo Connect. I hope you've had a great day. We've had lots of talks, lots of fun. I hope you're all enjoying and you can get the best out of your experience here with us. My name is Maciela Cunha, and I'm one of the business analyst functional consultants on the team of consultants. I help our clients implement Odoo, be it all applications really. And today we're here to talk about one of the biggest applications, which is the manufacturing app. And you can see how it can make a difference in your factory and help you make more efficient your work processes. So with the Odoo manufacturing app, you'll be able to see how you can make the right order of actions, smooth production, fight against wasting materials by getting all of the analysis that you need, gathering all that data that you're going to get from your employees. It's really important in manufacturing in particular because it's such a complex, it can be such a complex setup. You have to think about, your work centers, different machinery, your employees working on different processes in your production, all of your different products. It can be a very complex setup, but you can see that with Odoo, once you configure it all, and the configuration is fairly straightforward, you can make it that way, you're definitely set up to be able to gather all that information that you need to gather to improve your processes and be able to check out your bottlenecks, make sure that you can have more efficient processes again. And also as a manager, while we want to gather all that information, you want to make sure that your employees working on your production floor are able to use it easily. So it's also important to put yourself in their shoes. As a worker, you want to show up, you want to know what you have to do, you want to look at, these are the materials that I'm going to use. I want to be able to use them easily. And Odoo is a really user-friendly tool. And because it's adapted for tablet view, you can actually install tablets in all of your work centers and have all of your employees work in their different respective work centers or in the same work center depending on your processes. So we can see what the benefits of Odoo are with work centers. Like I said, as a worker, you want to have your processes be simple and easy to use, and you're able to have instructions very clear. You don't want to spend too much time. This also cuts down on your efficiency and the amount of time that you're working. So you don't want to have to look around to see where you need to find the information that you need. You're able to see visibility into the whole workflow and also see maybe where that product is in terms of the production, which I will show you later. If you're looking to see, where's this part? You can certainly go in and have a look. And as a manager, again, you can collect that data and have that real-time information reporting. Also, you can relay information maybe to your support team, to your sales staff. If a client wants to know when am I going to get this order, you're able to see how long this will take you to finish, where it's at, and know exactly who has this, where, how much it's costing you. So you can set this up in 3 easy steps. So first, you want to configure your work centers, which are the different areas inside your factory floor where all your production is going to be completed. And next, you want to set up your list of operations, which are the guidelines by which your employees are going to work on throughout the production, in particular when it comes to that step in your production workflow. And also with Odoo, you can see that once you have this set up, you can set up quality checkpoints, which means that you can have a look at, do I have the tools that I need? Are the tools high quality? Are my materials that I'm using high quality? You can set those up, and you can set them up so that you know exactly who's working on them and what the outcome of these quality checks are. So let's look at them more closely. When you are setting up your work center, this is the form view of your work centers, and you can configure it, for example, to know, I don't see it here. You don't see see my mouse. It's fine. You can see all of the reporting that you can glean from this once you've set this up. So the setup here, you have time efficiency, which you want it to be at 100% according to this configuration. You can set your capacity, your OEE targets. You can have, a cost on your work center per hour. And once you've set this up, you're going to get those reportings across the top there. So according to the work center and how you're using it, you're going to get this information across the top. So you can go right to your work center and look at the efficiency of that work center in particular as your employees are using it. You also have a tie into accounting here by way of analytic accounts. The next step would be to configure your routing. So here is where you're going to set your order of operations. In this example here, you have two. The first assembly, second assembly, this is an example of making a table. And as you can see here, this is where you're tying in the configuration that you made about your work center, all that we just looked at. You're actually setting on this operation, we're going to complete it at this first work center. And you can set up the amount of time that you either want it to take, or it can actually capture what it's really taking your employees. And let's look a little bit further into that order of operations. So each one of these lines here corresponds to an order of operation, which you can configure over here. So again, you have that assembly line 1, that's the operation, the work center that you're performing it at. You can set whether you want it to compute based on real time, so this is how long your employees are actually taking to do this, or if you want to set that time manually, sort of like what the ideal time is that you want them to take. You can also choose whether you'd like the next order of operations to come up once all of your products are done, so have a very strict assembly line, one after the other, or whether it's okay in your process to have your next order of operations start once some of the products are processed. In this configuration, it's the first one. And the other part that you can also set up here is to have that instruction manual. So, everybody knows what their job is, but it's always good to have a reference point to have a look at, what it is that I'm making, what is it supposed to look like. And a new feature in version 13 is that you can actually integrate with Google Slides. So you can copy the URL of that Google slide and paste it into Odoo and have that be the reference for your instructions. The great thing about this is that you can actually change those instructions in real time. So you don't have to wait for the operations to stop to later upload a new PDF. You can actually change that on your Google slide and it will change in Odoo. And once you've set up your work centers and orders of operation, you can set up your quality control points. So this is an example of one of the quality control points, for example, to make the table, to check the tabletop. Here you can see where and which work order operation you're going to set this up, what product, first of all, that you want to check, and what type of quality check is it. There's many different types. This one would be a pass-fail. So they're actually saying this is good to go or it's not good to go. You set which team is the one that you want to report to if there's any issues that come up. And you can actually set some instructions as to what they're supposed to be looking for during this quality checkpoint. And this is also a great opportunity to integrate with the IoT box. So in the type of checkpoint, that would be a measure, for example, where you need them to take a picture. So take a picture of this so that we can later analyze it or have a look. You can integrate with the IoT box to that device that you're using, i.e. your camera. Your employee can take that picture, complete their measure, without having to leave the interface or leave this screen. So we see that the 3 easy steps in your work centers set up, your operations and your guidelines and your quality control points, you're set to go and you can already set up your work center. So here I'm going to show you. This would be the tablet view of, I'm working on actually the internet, but this would be the tablet view that one of your employees would see. we can see here that this is actually an employee, Jane Doe, who doesn't have access to configurations, but can actually have a look at what your configurations are and what they need to complete their work. This is the home screen of how they would see it, and they can simply come in and actually have a look at what's next to do. So firstly, I just want to show you a couple of things here. The assembly line, number 1. It's in yellow, this button. There's nothing really that I have pending to do here. In assembly number 2, I actually have a green button that I can click into, but I also have something that's already in progress. And in my work center number 3, I have 2 things that are in progress. So even as an employee, as a worker, Jane Doe, I can come to work and see that my colleagues are already working on certain parts of the process, as I can see here with my different work centers. But let's just have a look at some of the things that were pre-configured before I came to work. So as we can see here, I'm going to make a table. So this is going to be a workflow to make a wooden table. And my product that I've set up, I can have a look at the bill of materials. So what are the materials that I need to use to make this table? I have the tabletop, 4 table legs, and 10 screws. A new feature in version 13 is actually making a flexible bill of materials. So flexible in the sense of consumption. So let's say that I needed to add an extra screw, an extra couple screws. With this configuration, it's very easy for me to do that while I actually build the table. And next, I can have a look at my routing to assemble this table. And I can see that I have 3 steps. So the 3 work centers that I just showed you are actually showing up here on my routing. And I can see that in my first step, I do my quality checks. My second step, in my second work center, I actually assemble the table. And in the last one, is the painting station, and that's where I would paint my table. Up here in steps, I have pre-configured what are those quality checks that I will be performing in my first operation. So I actually have visibility into what I will be performing as an employee, as well as coming right into the overview and looking at what's next for me to work on. So we're going to create here a manufacturing order. This might already be pre-created from a sales order that's made to order, or from my manager that would create my manufacturing orders, or from our master production schedule that would spit out manufacturing orders according to my replenishment needs. So I would select the wood table here. I see that these are the components that I need in order to make the table. The bill of materials pre-populates. Once I mark it as to do, I can check availability. And I actually have, some of this is not fully available. So what I'm going to do here is actually quickly replenish it. Whoops. And this is something that happens to us actually in live demo. So this was the table leg. Actually, let me see what's happening. Table leg 4 reserved. Yeah. 12 on hand. I'm not using the right. I'm going to plan, and I can still sort of go through it. So let's go back to my overview and go through my work orders here. I'm actually going to go through the first step, which is checking the quality check. So an important thing to view here is that there's a PDF that I uploaded on my quality check that will let me know. So this was check the screwdriver. So I needed to check the correct screwdriver. And with the picture here, I can show what I needed, which screwdriver I'm looking for as an employee. I can select pass, and for my next quality check, I can also select pass once I've checked the wooden legs that I saw that I had there. And I am ready here with an order of operations of what I just completed. So I can see that right away. Once I mark this as done, I'm ready to move on. I don't have anything else left to do in this work center, and I can launch the next one. So I can ready here, and my table legs, as you see here, the Google slide. This is the Google slide that I connected to. As this is the live database, I was able to put in that URL for that Google slide that gives me the instructions. And I can actually see what are the steps that I need to take in order to assemble this table. If I hit validate here, it says I need to select a lot, which I have available for the 4 tables, for the 4 legs that I need to make this table. And I can hit validate and move on to the next step. So this one is the screws. So I'm going to put together my screws. I'm going to put together the table with my screws. According to my bill of materials, I need 10. I have 8 available on this lot number, so I would continue consumption. So this is a new feature that also allows me to add more onto my bill of materials according to that flexible BOM that I built. So I'm going to continue consumption, and automatically Odoo will pick up the other 2 screws that I need to complete this and select the next lot number in line. Say that I wanted to add another screw because I feel like I need to fortify my table. I can continue hitting continue consumption, select one, and pick one of the lot numbers here that I have for screws. Once I hit validate, I let Odoo know that I'm already done this process. So as we can see here, I get my order of operations that I just finished completing, and I have visibility into what work I just finished. So once I mark as done, we get this error. So this error has to do with the configuration of my table that I indicated that I track this by serial number. So I need to select a serial number before I can move on. So with this new feature in version 13, previously we had to create our lots before and be able to select them. Now I can hit this button, and Odoo will populate a serial number that it created just now. This serial number sequence is fully customizable, so I can create the sequence that I need. This is just in the next order of operation, the next order of sequencing that I chose to use out of the box. So I can mark this as done. And this is from a previous work order that I had worked on that's still here in progress. But I can go on to my next painting station. So I'm here on manufacturing order number 8. And I can come to the last step in making my table, which is to paint the table. So I have a picture here of what I'm supposed to paint, what it's supposed to look like. But I want to draw your attention a little bit here to some of the tools I can use as a worker to see, if something's come up. Maybe there's a quality alert. I saw that, my colleague in the first step didn't really check the table legs. I want to create a quality alert for my team to have them check that. I can also block the work center if one of my machinery is down. I want to stop the process for a bit. I can do that. In this case, everything is good, and I can come here and mark it as done. And that makes my manufacturing order complete. My work here is done. So I can come over here, now switching hats to a manager's perspective. I'm actually able to look at some reporting on that manufacturing order. And in this case, I want to highlight the fact that I used an extra set of screws with that flexible BOM configuration, and that shows up here. So I'm actually able to gather up some information, the amount of time it took me to do that. There was a little clock as I was doing everything. And I can have sort of a cost analysis of my bill of materials right away based on what I just completed and the cost of the materials that it took me to make. So let's go back to, alrighty. So now that we've done our demonstration, I just wanted to conclude some of the things that we discovered now in version 13. You can create your lots and serial numbers on the fly. You can record your exact production time based on that clock, and you saw that timing information that I gathered. You can also consume differently with that flexible BOM configuration that I made. And I can use Google Slides now to display my instructions and change them if I need to in real time. Some other things that we didn't get to see in this demonstration, but that you have available now for you in version 13. We have a new master production schedule tool that's been revamped. You also have the option of setting up alternate work centers. So if different work centers can perform the same operation and my main work center isn't available, Odoo will let me know when the next one that is available. I can set up my work orders ahead of time, and I have access to quality checks from the product form. As we saw here, we only looked at the manufacturing application as such. It had already been configured, but what you didn't see is that I used the inventory application and also the quality application to set this up. Odoo is very nicely integrated and where I'm touching all of those applications within one. Also, which we didn't see here, but we also integrate with the manufacturing application with sales, purchase, maintenance, PLM, accounting, etc. So Odoo is a very nice, easy to use tool that will help me perform my daily operations. And we had a previous talk, I believe around 2:30 today, around manufacturing. We also have many more talks available in YouTube. Tomorrow I just wanted to point out a talk on Odoo inventory, which is very closely integrated with manufacturing, with my colleague Loredana Pepe. Thank you so much, and thanks for coming. Now, I believe we have some time for questions. Yes?
With the integration of Google Sheets, are we going to be able to see videos or embedded GIFs in the Google Sheets from the Odoo UI?
I'd have to check that out. I'm not 100% sure. But the slides, I was testing that.
Slides, right.
Yeah, so with the slide, you mean the embedded GIF within the slide?
Right, exactly.
To see like a live motion. I'd have to check that out for you. Any other questions? Great. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today for the very last class or session at 5:30 p.m. On the first day. I'm convinced they scheduled this so you guys have time to nap before the party. So if you want to take a nap, please don't snore. Now, today is going to be the tax engine, the most riveting topic of the day. I'm Richard, a business advisor here at Odoo. So what we're going to do today is cover the introduction, a little bit of what's new in version 13 when it comes to the tax calculation, a use case, and we're going to just talk about it. So now, simplifying tax management. So essentially what we've done, we've reinvigorated the application, the feature for tax management, into ease of the configuration of the platform itself with a completely refactored way of handling taxes. And I'll show you what that looks like. You can, of course, now lock your tax entries to avoid tax report mistakes. In the past, previously, all you could do was lock accounting dates for posting journal entries, whether you are a regular user or you are an advisor or a high-level CPA. And now, on top of that, we make it really easy for you to book the closing period's journal entry when it comes to the taxes that you owe or are owed. So what's new in version 13? Previously, this is what the tax configuration looked like. You have the tax name, the scope, whether it's a sale or a purchase. You have the general definition of it, of how it works in the computation. In this particular example, there is a situation where, this is a Belgian example, where you had a tax that was split into two portions. And so the tax needed to be configured in such a way that you had to do 10.5 and 10.5, which the tax is supposed to be 21%, but because of the way the Belgian government works, or the situation, it had to be split into two. So not very easy, not very clear to configure, especially if you have to configure more than a separation than more than two. Here in the US, it's probably a little bit more simple than that, but there's always scenarios that are a little bit more complex. And so now with the refactoring, this is what it looks like. It's a little bit heavier on the screen, but it's actually a lot easier. You still have the tax name. You also have the tax scope, still all there, but you have a main percentage up top about how much you're charging, the 21%. And of course, now down below, you have the repetition. Now, the way this is designed is such a way that you first the base, which is whatever the dollar amount that you're going to be, the sale is or the purchase, and now you can do the split. So before it was 10.5 to reach that 21% that they needed to achieve, but now you don't need to do that. So now you can say 50% of the tax goes into the tax due, while 50% goes to be tax recovered. What makes it much easier to add multiple taxes to a particular transaction, especially if you have state, county, federal, and maybe other regulatory taxes that impacts how you need to, the transaction flows through and what accounts they need to hit. Now on the right, you'll see the tax grids. That's something specific, not for the US, that was designed for Belgium when it comes to tax reporting. It works similar to like a tag where you tag this particular transaction into that tax grid and it displays the information differently on the tax report. Which is also what's new about this is the repetition for credit notes. Now this is a standard way of handling it that will pretty much mimic whatever you have there on the repetition for invoices, but on the reverse side where you credit somebody. So this gives you a lot more control should you have differences when it comes to how to handle taxes on a credit versus a general sale. Same thing with the purchase, etc. So what's also new is this particular lock date. As I mentioned, now you have the ability to lock when tax entries can be recorded. So which could be different than the regular accounting date that you lock for most users who are not admin or CPA. Then, of course, you have the general advisor lock date. So it allows you to do it for taxes specifically. And this is another new feature for version 13, the tax return periodicity. So essentially it allows you to generate a report every period that you need to do tax return, and it will remind you about it. So right now in the periodicity, it's monthly or trimester, yeah. So reminder 7 days before that period, and you specify the journal you want to hit. So now on the report, the tax report it hasn't changed too much in the last couple of versions, but now you have the easy export, the print review, of course, and the closing journal entry. Doing so will automatically generate the corresponding journal entry that you need to hit when it comes to paying the taxes that you owe at the end of the year or period. So we'll dive into it a little bit more to show you how this works. You've all seen Odoo. This is the main dashboard. We'll dive into accounting specifically. Now, if we jump to configuration and taxes, you're going to see all the different taxes we have. focusing on particularly the sales scope, here's a scenario where you can go above and beyond. As you see, I've created this as an example where you can essentially say the tax amount of the sale is 15%. However, I'm also going to allocate 50% of that into account 1, tax received, and then 50% into another. Here, you can see you can also add another one, 20%. So that implies that you don't need to hit and maintain 100% of the tax, because you could have taxes that are on top of taxes, or a tax that is in conjunction with the normal tax, and it's still going to go above what that 15% should be. So it's going to allow you to kind of configure in a lot more complex ways. You'll notice that you specify account here if it should be specified. You will want to do this for all the transactions just because it's going to hit a specific account. You'll notice that the top level, the account base, doesn't have it because you don't need to. That's going to be based off of what the normal tax is going to be, or the account specified, or the account on the product itself. So I'll remove that. And so you can see you can set that up very easily on both sides of here. You have some advanced options here about more preferences, what it looks like on a label when it comes to the journal entry, a tax grouping, which is more for reporting, to kind of label things and group them up together. And then, of course, you have the analytic cost inclusion, which is more advanced reporting when it comes to accounting and financial statements. You also have the included in price and effect based on subsequent taxes. So this gives you a lot more flexibility and control when you have more complex scenarios, depending on how you want to view and display the information. So now, let's see. It's probably something, a configuration I did. I deleted a record. I'll just remove that altogether, make sure I have a tax that works. This works. That's the California tax I set up. So that's essentially how that works and behaves. You'll, of course, have the reporting when it comes to the tax side. This is what the report looks like. It hasn't really much changed. You're going to have all the different taxes you hit, state, county, federal. The net tax is actually going to be the taxable sale or taxable transaction that has occurred, with the tax being to the right of that. That's how you read that. Then you have to separate into sales and purchases. And this report is what would be modified if we continue to use the grids functionality, where it can group things up and sum them together in such a way that conveys the information you need in a concise manner. One thing is nice, though, is that sometimes your tax returns or tax journal entries are not posted. So just like every other financial report we have now, you can decide to view and include unposted entries, which is a big change considering the fact now that invoices and journal entries are one and the same. So a draft invoice creates a draft journal entry, which allows you to plan ahead. Okay, maybe this quarter, this is how much I want to write off in my taxes, maybe for your estimates that you're going to report every year or every quarter to the government. This gives you the opportunity to see how it will impact your financial statements or even the tax report. And of course, you can do the comparisons between different periods. Now, if I want to close it, here's the menu item that's new. Just click the closing journal entry, and it's going to essentially create everything there. Now, this is assuming I did everything correctly on this. Now, what you'd expect to see, of course, would be the receivable or the payable on the tax side, and of course, the reversal of the liability or asset on your end. So that will essentially trigger and post whatever you need to do. What's nice, though, especially because this is in draft status, is this refresh option up top. So for tax planning, you're going to want to see how it impacts the future activities or how your current activities impact your financial statements. Now, you don't necessarily want to post this quite yet because it's not the end of the quarter or end of the month or even end of the year. But what you all have to do is just click refresh, and all those other transactions that have occurred while you created this will now update the journal entry because you haven't posted it yet. So this gives you kind of a live update about what's going on. Now from there, you have, of course, the tax lock dates. So this is the original lock date that existed before. You have the one for non-advisor users and, of course, the advisor users themselves. Now you have the tax lock date. And, of course, you can make them all very different in different times and periods. Let's make the lock date November. Let's make them all November. Just make it simple because it will be used later. Okay, so unposted entries in the period you want to lock. Okay, let's make it older, just to not to worry about it. Apparently someone's been messing with this database further. There we go. So now I can post whenever I need to. It's locked. I can't generate an invoice during those time periods. One of the things you can do is in the vendor bill, now you have all these different vendor bills here, some posted, unposted. I'm going to create a brand new one for my laptop vendor and add a product. Just do the block, just make it clear. And so now I can choose to hit a different date. So you have the counting date and the bill date. So with the locking functionality, now I can specify, even if maybe I'm late on something, and this is an invoice that was billed to me, let's say at the beginning of the year, and for whatever reason, I'm only now getting the invoice. What's going to happen is Odoo's going to prompt you and let you know that, hey, this period is locked and closed. You can't do anything with it. So what it's going to do on your behalf is move it to the next available period for validation and reconciliation. So you'll still be able to move it through. It's just that the date will be during the next period. There you go. Which, as you see here, is 7/2. Because I locked it on 7/1, so you couldn't do anything before that. And so even though the bill date was the, March 1st, it automatically moved the invoice date to the next possible period. Now, I did that very quickly, but one of the things that's new with version 13 as well here is the fact that sometimes different systems, different accounting platforms, whether it's yours or your vendors or customers, they all do things a little bit differently when it comes to tax calculation. And it's a common scenario where you have rounding issues. So you can either round by the line item. So you have a product, you have a particular product at a cost that you have specified. Just leave it at that. And now I can add another product here as well, just for example. So the way the tax works in this kind of, in the database, you can choose if you want to round globally or on the line level. What that means is it's how the computation behaves. So it's going to take, of course, the quantity times the price to get the subtotal times the taxes. So rounding on a global level versus line level is they're going to calculate, on the line level, it's going to round as soon as the calculation happens there for both of those line items and then sum them together at the bottom for the tax of 15%. Versus the global level, it's going to take the totals, calculate what the tax would be, add them together, and then round at the very end. So what you end up finding in certain situations is there's a penny difference. No, you're not losing money. That penny is not actually gone. It's just a different rounding system. So you now have the flexibility to come in here, use this little pencil icon, and modify the rounding. Because you need to make sure that how you round is similar to, or what's displayed here in the journal entry you post and you want to pay is identical to what the vendor's doing. So this is why it's super crucial to have this ability to make these changes. Now, of course, the same thing can be applied on the sales side of things, but at the end of the day, it's the client's responsibility to match what they owe you as opposed to vice versa. So now I can save that and post and no issues. As you probably are aware from either the accounting class that occurred yesterday or some of the classes that are going to occur, or the workshops going to occur tomorrow and Thursday, now that the invoice, vendor bill, and the journal entry are one and the same, I can make changes in the back end here, which is what the journal entry will look like, which will then reflect on the other side. And so it's going to be reflected here. And save and post. So essentially what this essentially allowed you to do is make quick changes of the journal entry. You have all the information there, the taxes. You know exactly what account's being hit because the tax paid account is specified on the tax you set up through that wizard we saw earlier. Now this is not going to take into account integrations we have with like Tax Cloud or third-party integration with like Avalara. This is purely a manual operation and approach. You have the ability to modify taxes, who are charged what based on state, county, products, not tax exempt, with a concept called fiscal positions, which isn't covered here right now, but something we can talk about for sure. That's the bulk of what's going on with the tax side of things. So I'm happy to just answer any questions regarding what you see here. Did I make it interesting? Anyone sleeping yet? No? Great. So you now know everything about accounting, taxes. You don't need any, you have no questions. I get it. All right. Perfect. Oh, yes, thank you.
So you would, So I know you mentioned in yesterday's class the physical position would define whether a product or services is taxable or not taxable. Yes. So that'll be covered tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a main topic. Okay. But I mean, I can cover it now if you want to. I'm also going to be at the accounting expert, supposedly, workshop all Thursday, so you can also walk up there.
Okay, no problem.
Let's see, 1 second. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. Any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback? Go party. Have fun.